Hello and welcome to Cinematic UniVersus. I am your host, Kyle Torres.
And I'm your other host, Andrew Carten.
Thank you for tuning in today. We're going to be talking about the film that I requested from the last episode, which is Cops vs. Thugs, a 1975 Japanese Yakuza film from director Kinji Fukusaku. Same director as Battle Royale, which is probably his most famous work.
Oh, yeah.
He's done a lot over several decades, but that's probably like the biggest thing he's done. The stars of...
I'm going to let you talk about this one because you know way more than I do.
Yeah. And I'm going to botch so many names today. It's going to be great.
Like this one, Eric? Eric. My bad.
This is my co-host, Andreyu? Andreyu.
Thank you for getting that really random, out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh, God. Anyway, Cops vs. Thugs stars Bunta Sugawara as Detective Kuno. Oh, God, here we go. Hiroki Matsukata as Kenji Hirotani, and Mikio Norita as Katsumi Kawade. The film Cops vs. Thugs won 2 Blue Ribbon Awards, which, from what I was able to find online, is sort of the Japanese equivalent of the Critics' Choice Awards.
Okay. It's the Japanese equivalent of the Kids' Choice Awards.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
Hold on. I will get back to that. Remind me about the Kids' Choice Awards when we get to the part where, I don't want to spoil anything about the movie just yet, but some wild fucking... Actually, no, there's a lot of nudity in this, so
yeah,
just
there
even going
really
off
is.
that... Just even going off that, imagine if, the kids were like, no, this wins.
The kids just have a really weird, year, but they just throw everything off. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that, a group like 4chan hasn't attacked the Kids' Choice Awards yet.
Me too.
I know, they don't choose nominees or anything.
Yeah,
but
still. Do you think the kids that choose the Kids' Choice Awards nominees are...
Do you think Disney's paying off the critics? Disney's paying off the kids?
Kids' Choice Awards is on Nickelodeon.
Fuck, you're
but
right.
I was gonna say, do you think it's the same ones that do Kids Bop? They record their albums in their free time. They're like, let's watch movies and decide which one's the best.
The Kids Bop Choice Awards. Oh, God. So, anyway, to go into...
Kids Bop, bop, boom,
Kids
bop.
Bop. Kitty Bop, okay, Kids Bop. Kids Bop.
This podcast went downhill.
In
the first 3 episodes, we've devolved into nothingness.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, to get into what we actually usually do, let's do a plot rundown for Cops vs. Thugs. This is going to be a long and extensive one. Cops vs. Thugs is a very dense kind of film. Not dense, but it just has a lot.
A lot happens.
A lot happens and a lot is going on. It's not like Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
Where there's 30 to 45 minutes of filler.
And you're able to skip all over it.
Yeah, or same thing with Bigfoot versus D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
Where you can watch 12 minutes and get the plot. You could watch most of it and be like, yeah, I got everything this movie had to offer.
Oh, Jesus.
This movie, if you stop paying attention for 2 minutes, you're lost.
Yeah. It really is you gotta be paying attention, especially because I have a hard time with a lot of name following in general.
Yeah,
I usually refer mostly to characters by their actor names.
Yeah, exactly. And since you knew none of these characters going in, or actors going in.
And because I'm just generally unfamiliar with Japanese names just in general.
Yeah.
So it just makes it all the harder for me to remember who's who.
Yeah, which, side note, out of nowhere, I'm reading a comic called Why the Last Man. They go to Japan in one part.
Okay.
And it is written. It was written.
It is written.
It came out. This part where I'm at came out in 2005 or so.
Yeah.
One of the characters' name is Toyota. To give you an idea of how not cool some aspects of this comic are. So it's so refreshing to be like, oh, cool, actual Japanese names, as opposed to shit like that. I'm like,
Yeah. So to get into the plot of this, we begin with 2 Yakuza gangs, the Kawade, who have political connections through Assemblyman Tomoe Yasu, who is also a former Yakuza boss.
If you want me to read over the plot at any point you want to trade off, I can read the notes because
if
you want to not take too much time butchering it. But
yeah.
You go until you're done.
So yeah, there's the Kawade who have political control, and the Ohara who are run by Kenji Hirotani, who have the cooperation of the police force, and they're battling for control over the fictional city of Kurashima City. It begins almost like Romeo and Juliet, really.
Yeah, Shakespeare wrote this one, actually.
Yeah, Shakespeare is the author of Cops versus Thugs.
It was the one he wrote right after Love, Labor's Lost.
Yeah.
It was it was one of the lost...
It was one of the lost loves that was labored upon.
Yeah, exactly.
But it begins almost like Romeo and Juliet, with two men of the Ohara gang sort of just causing general trouble at a bar owned by the gang members of the Kawade.
They're quite a bunch of roughhousians, ragamuffins, if you will.
Oh yeah, yeah. They do bite their thumbs at them.
Oh my god, are we... Let me just say, from this movie, within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, no, I'm super into this.
Oh yeah, same. Because, well, to be fair, where I'm saying it starts is not actually where it starts.
Yeah, fair.
It starts with a scene of the detective Kuno, after several men
Kuno and the two strings.
Kuno and the two strings. Kuno and his two strings alongside him. They're eating at this one place, and some of the men of the Ohara are also dining there, and they just sort of leave to go do some general criminal acts.
I like to imagine that, like, you've heard of general stores.
Yeah.
Now get ready for general police stations, which hold people that do general crimes.
Yeah. But they were just about to go do some criminal activity, and Kuno, like, stops them, sort of, like, antagonizes them a little bit.
I thought he was going to be a bad guy in the movie going in, not going to lie.
Yeah,
like,
no. Yeah.
From the very beginning, I was like, oh shit, I see. These might be our protagonists, and this is the antagonist of the film.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah. But he antagonizes them, like, in public, and just... He lets them go.
He
So-
slaps them around a bunch.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of a lot of slapping. There was a lot more slapping.
There is a lot of slapping in this movie, all using very similar sound effects the entire time.
That's one thing I'll say this movie didn't have going for it,
Yeah,
which is...
the sound design is kind of wonk.
Yeah, it's like they went into their local library and was like...
And just borrowed the, like,
the only
sound effects
audio files
CD.
they had available. It's like, we'll just use it 16 times. It'll be fine. No one will notice.
Yeah, for sure. So after these men cause some trouble, Detective Kuno arrests a member of the Kawade for blackmail and gains info that they're planning to buy a large amount of land for basically free.
Yeah.
Now another weird thing about this movie, they treat this land deal like it's this kind of like big thing.
Yeah.
But eventually they just sort of not devolve, but they just sort of decide, we'll just let them have it.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right.
See, you kind of expect that when the movie ends that it's going to be like, oh, they solved this whole land dispute. But no, the movie ends with, like, betrayal and, like, death, and without going too much into it right now.
Yeah.
But, like, watch the first half hour and you won't really guess where the end is going to go.
Yeah. It gets pretty wild, because another thing is just, like, a lot of crime films like to put in a lot of twists and a lot of character relations. And, you know, I brought up the Romeo and Juliet kind of, like, opening, but, you know, it does follow a kind of, like, Shakespearean character relations to each other, where there's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of sort of, like, archetypical characters in there. But
there's a lot that happens in this fucking movie.
Yeah, there really is a lot that goes on. And like you said, if you lose focus during the movie, you kind of, like, lose focus of
everything that's about to happen.
Yeah. So Detective Kuno arrests a member of the Kawade for blackmail and gains it. I've already said this. Why am I reading through my notes again?
Because we're professionals.
Clearly. Do you want to take over for some of this? I don't want to be the only voice during all of these, like,
sure. I'm gonna do a
plot rundowns.
I'm gonna do, like, a trailer voice that you'd
or
like a nice, like, I'm gonna read this.
Yeah.
Kuno and Hirotani later stopped to talk about when they first met.
I'm so bad at reading.
Hirotani was on the run after killing a crime boss many years ago. And Kuno, I'm talking way too loud. I'm looking at the, like that was me talking.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Where was, and Kuno took pity and
did what he could to protect him.
But
this is actually like kind of far into the movie. There's a lot of just like general like discussion over like this land deal that again kind of like doesn't really
exactly,
result
which is
in
why
that much.
while this movie is pretty dense, there is a decent amount of like overlooking that we did when we wrote the description, because if we put in everything about the land deal, then we'd be going too much into it, and this would be like a 2-hour long ordeal right now, especially with how much.
And part of this is that, like, you know, we do want to talk about like the general story of the movie. The reason why we kind of told you what the movie was going to be in the next episode was that you would have a chance to go out and watch it.
Exactly.
So this is more supposed to be sort of just like a discussion after the movie rather than it is supposed to be
a rundown,
breaking down literally everything that happens in every single one of these movies.
You know, before I continue reading, can I just say, my favorite thing, actually, I just want to make sure it's not listed on here. Yeah, cool, I don't see it. There's one thing that happens that was completely wild.
Yeah.
It never gets touched on again.
Do tell.
There's like a foot chase that goes on, or a bike chase. That ends with one dude just getting straight up decapitated.
Oh, yeah, and they never bring it up again after that.
Like, because keep in mind, this is what, the 70s?
Yeah.
How many people are you seeing getting decapitated nowadays? And it's like, or then-a-days, I guess.
Then-a-days.
How many people are you seeing getting decapitated? And like, if this was hypothetically a Marvel movie or like Deadpool where someone got decapitated, I feel like you'd have that one character in the background like 10 minutes later be like, they're like, yeah, so we gotta talk about this land deal. One guy in the back is like, yeah, but did you see this guy get decapitated? What was up with that? Like,
yeah.
They wouldn't let it go.
Yeah, even I kind of forgot about it in the time between all this.
Yeah, like
because they never touch on that.
Every like 20 minutes after that, we were like, some dude got decapitated, huh?
And there's a lot that we're already leaving out, like Tomoe Yasu, the assemblyman, and just the first vibe we got off of him during the bar scene when he's talking very sexually explicitly.
Yeah. I was uncomfortable almost immediately.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I made the joke where like, excuse me, I need to go home. I need to go water my house.
I need to water my house.
Cause fucking, there's also like, I know we already said this, there's a lot of like, what I'll say is, I guess, sexuality throughout this movie with like, whether it be explicitly talking about like doing very sexual things or just nudity here and there or like shit. I feel like this one's much more open about showing sexual stuff than most movies nowadays are.
Like that
with the exception.
I like that you made it sound like you were nervously like,
no,
some sexual.
We can't have the cops come on down on us again.
God forbid they bring their thugs.
The only movie I will say that I can think of in recent memory that was like as open with like sexual stuff happening or came close. It's Bigfoot versus DB Cooper. And that's only because I swear to God that is 2 steps away from being softcore gay porn.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, we have so much to run through with this plot.
Here's one of the few things I do remember. So, I don't remember which guy is which, but the guy from the beginning, which I believe is Kawade.
There's Kawade and there's Hiratani. Hiratani is the very angry boy.
Okay.
And Kawade's kind of a more like business savvy.
Okay.
And then Kuno is the detective.
Okay, I believe it was Kuno. The main thing I remember is Kuno had a flashback where one of the guys, the younger guy, he's like, oh, I committed a crime, and fucking Kuno gave him food and shit.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Perfect. With Kuno giving Hiratani like as much help as he can possibly give.
Right, and he just, and this is the best word I can use to describe it, guzzles the rice he was given.
Yeah.
Like, he just goes all at it.
Just guzzles it. So eventually a full gang war is sort of brought upon by the Ohana, or Ohana means family. And family
Means thugs.
never ratting out to the cops. But the O'Hara gang do something to a truck driver who turns out to be like a truck driver specifically for the Kawade.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna stop and be like, who turned out to be a truck driver? And it's like, oh, the truck driver was a truck driver? Wild.
So as the gang war sort of like explodes into this big thing,
Into a battle royale, if you will.
we are introduced to Lieutenant Kaida as opposed to the Game Master Kaiba. But Kaida is introduced to the police force, and he plans to pretty much get rid of all the crooked cops and try to take down these criminals during all of this.
Yeah.
Which the rest of the police force is not okay with, including what I would say is like the polar opposite of our favorite archetype now.
Yeah.
Which is the progressive prospector.
Yeah, he's our favorite.
But we
the
now
insensitive
introduced
inspector?
the exact opposite, the
Yeah.
inquisitive inspector.
Was it inquisitive or insensitive?
Oh right, the insensitive. The
Yeah.
insensitive.
The insensitive inspector, which I wasn't expecting there to be like when watching these movies to like have these new character types that we never knew before,
Yeah.
and they were like, oh yeah, no, okay, yeah.
So specifically about the insensitive inspector, he asks everyone about communists.
Yeah, out of nowhere, like it's never like prompted either.
Yeah.
Like they'll be like, oh yeah, I was stuck in traffic today. Yeah, those dirty communists, right? What are you talking about? What?
Yeah. So it just comes out of nowhere. And eventually, I think it was him who gets into a fight with Kaida at a party or whatever. And what happens is
Kaida's parents went home for the weekend, so he threw It was a whole weekend at Kaiba's type thing.
Weekend at Kaiba's?
Where Kaiba ended up dying anyway. And Kawade and Tomayasu just put him on their shoulders. It was a whole ordeal.
It was a wild time. He had sunglasses on, and you know it.
No one thought he was dead. It was
it was great. But no, Kaida is not dead. But during all this, Hirotani is getting progressively angrier at the police force.
Yeah,
because during all of
corruption,
this, like
too.
sort of with all the crusades going on against against corrupt cops.
Yeah.
And because like they're not telling the Hirotani, they're not telling the Hirotani. They're not telling Hirotani anything. And then also, there's just so much that happens in this movie.
Like, we can't
It's
say
tough
that
to-
enough.
it's-
We're trying to say it
yeah.
enough. Believe me, you've heard us say it like 12 times now.
Yeah. But it's just kind of hard to summarize it all into just like one bit here. But then like the actual boss O'Hara, who the gang is named after, is released from prison, and he's coerced by the Kawade into giving up all of his assets and disbanding the criminal family to the Kawade. There's just so much to unpack. Eventually, Kuno and Kaida get into a fight.
That's where things really got really interesting to me.
Yeah. And then Kuno's reprimanded as a result, and he's taken off of the police force. Yep.
Doesn't his wife leave him too?
Yeah. His wife also leaves him. And then we get this one little scene that I really liked where they're trying to find some like refugees or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he finds some of them in a small bush. And Kuno himself lets the refugees go. And then that actually leads into the party I think that they're talking about.
Yep.
Where the police actually found the people who were hiding in the bush. And even though Kuno did as best as he could to protect him, even these refugees like start to think that he turned them in,
exactly.
basically. And it's just this like kind of like sobering kind of.
Yeah, it was
like,
really neat to see.
Lack of redemption,
Yeah.
sort of.
It's not something you see a lot nowadays.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's just like one of those fascinating kind of little character moments that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
It's a nice little scene just sort of on its own, regardless of the kind of movie that's in it.
The kind of movie that's in that particular scene.
well, like, fuck you. But then, as a result of Hirotani getting progressively angrier, he eventually kidnaps the cop. I think he kidnaps the insensitive inspector.
Okay, yep.
And he and his men hide out and hold him hostage in a hotel. That's a lot of words that start with the letter H.
Yeah, it's my favorite wrestler. It's Triple H.
Triple H, baby. But the police try and take hold of the hotel that they're holding them in, but they're just completely unable to break through there.
And then our hero cop goes in.
Yeah, and then the police force eventually call Kuno because they know he has connection with Hirotani, sort of. And they call him to try and negotiate. Instead of doing a proper negotiation, he just breaks into the hotel, just starts taking down everyone, and eventually he does get to Hirotani and the cop.
It's a lot like a scene you'd see in like a video game where they're like,
hey,
hey, we need you to come in. And you're like, okay, yeah, how am I going to do it? Is it going to be a cutscene? And it just drops you in. It's like, eliminate all enemies. And you're like, oh, okay.
But yeah, he does eventually get to Hirotani. And that's when he offers a deal with Kaida, where the deal is basically he'll give up Hirotani in exchange for what was it?
$1 million.
Jesus. No, he wants both of the gangs to disband as a result of this, and only to give both of the gang leaders light prison sentences.
Exactly, yeah.
And then also, just as like a total flex on Kaida, he wants him to also admit that Kuno is a great inspector a great detective / genius. And Kaida does accept the deal, and as they're going down to bring Hirotani, Hirotani sort of breaks loose and kidnaps Kaida and tries to hold him hostage.
Yep.
But then Kuno, again, going back to this sort of lack of redemption. Just shoots Hirotani.
Yeah, which I wasn't expecting.
No.
I was like, okay, yeah, this is gonna have at least all the characters we've come to know and like are gonna survive, especially because even though he turned into like a gang leader, I still really liked Hirotani. Is that am I getting? Yeah. I know Kuno's the cop.
Kuno's the cop. Hirotani is the angry boy.
Yep, is the angry boy. Gotcha. Boy better be spelled B-O-I.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
and
cool,
angry is spelled
A-N-G-E-R-Y. Perfect.
Yeah. So he does shoot him dead, and then the movie just sort of ends from there, and there's a little like rundown of what happened since then. Kuno went on to start a horse stealing business.
It was successful, but nowhere near it successful as his rival company, Thorpe.
Red Thorpe. So, personal opinions on the movie. I really liked this one. Like, right from the get-go, I'm just super into it. It's got some really fun editing, and the music's awesome throughout the whole thing.
I liked it, too. Going in, I was a little worried, because foreign movies are always either hit or miss with me.
Yeah.
So, like, this one I actually was super into.
Yeah.
And like you said, the music is phenomenal.
It really is. It keeps everything going the whole time.
Yeah.
And also just some of the directorial style. Like, there's a lot of handheld camera,
yep,
which really works to sort of put you into the field. Like, we mentioned that, like, a lot of the fight scenes don't have music, which is something we brought up in Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
Yeah, and it works for this movie.
Yeah, because of that handheld camera, it makes it feel more realistic.
Yeah.
And we brought this up as an example while we were watching the movie, sort of like in Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yep.
There's the bathroom fight scene.
Yep. Another really well choreographed and really well shot scene.
And again, it's one that doesn't have music in the background, but it feels so much more authentic thanks to a lot of the style.
What do you mean it doesn't have Imagine Dragons playing Gaze Fight the action? I saw the trailer. I knew what the scene has.
Yeah, but it also has fucking what's his name? Cavill. What's his first name?
Cavill?
Henry Cavill. Reloading his arms.
Yeah, I know. Which is
move.
the best thing I've ever seen in a movie. Do you want to know what I just realized?
What?
Henry Cavill is to Mission Impossible what Sean Bean was to 007. Where he's like, yeah, this is a good guy. He's working on our side. Spoiler alerts for Mission Impossible Fallout.
Bet you weren't expecting that on an episode about cops versus thugs.
Or
a 1975 Japanese film.
Also, spoiler alert for GoldenEye, I guess. Where it's like, yeah, he's on our side. He's one of the good guys. Psych, you thought?
Bitch, you thought. But
back
just
to
on
the
top
movie.
of back to cops versus thugs. As I was talking about the directorial style, there's also just like a lot of usage of long shots, and which again helps to make it feel more authentic, puts you more into the scenario.
Yeah.
It's really a cool way to make this kind of work, which is fascinating because with a lot of these like higher energy action movies, cop movies and all that, they tend to use a lot of over editing.
Yeah.
Which can work perfectly fine, but I find it better to kind of put me into those kind of tenser situations while still feeling somehow like it's like a fun ride.
Yeah.
It's a cool balance that he's able to find. You can see that also in some of his other movies, like in Battle Royale.
Yeah.
It's got that like fun kind of crazy anything goes vibe.
Yeah, right after the people fall out of the battle bus.
Fuck. I thought I could
We
go.
were so close!
We were so close to talking about the movie Battle Royale without bringing up fucking Fortnite. And you went and ruined it.
One thing I did like about this movie is, I don't have a lot of free time that often, so I don't get to see too many movies. So most of the movies I do see are like Marvel movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, like, I saw Halloween this past year. So they're like higher budget movies. I liked watching this because it was a good movie that seemed like it didn't have a gigantic budget.
Yeah.
So it's always refreshing after seeing a bunch of big budget movies to see a movie do really well with not super a whole lot of money.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I really appreciate about watching a lot of older action movies in general is that they tend not to have, like, they still have the higher budgets of movies released back then.
Yeah.
But nothing compared to the action movies that we have now, where it's like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Exactly.
And it's just interesting to see how you make action filmmaking on such a tighter budget.
Yeah.
So it's just really well done stuff, pretty much the whole way around. Like we said, we do have some complaints. The sound design is probably the big one, where it reuses a lot of sound effects. But I think even then, like, it was mostly in the first, like, 30, 40 minutes, and then the rest of it kind of, like, it kind of faded away.
You don't notice it as much as it goes on, because you get,
you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is something that, like, it's kind of distracting.
Yeah, especially to start off with.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you'll definitely notice for the first, like, third of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what do you have any takeaways from this movie? Anything you learned?
I can never be redeemed, no matter how awful I am.
Yeah,
or even how
we all
awful,
know you're the worst.
or even how awful I'm not.
Yeah, that's true. Because he doesn't do too many bad things.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, to be fair, Kuno is a crooked cop who works with the gangs
and abuses criminals
and
too.
abuses criminals at the same time. But like we
got a
mentioned,
soft
there's
side.
those scenes where he offers like that sort of aid to people in need.
Yeah.
And even then, he doesn't get the redemption. He doesn't get to feel like a good person, because people immediately call him out as a traitor.
Yeah.
Even though he did what he could to help them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, kind of a real one, because, you know, sometimes it's nice to watch a good movie.
Yeah. And to make it on a not very
what's your takeaway?
Serious takeaway. I learned, in pun intended, no one getting decapitated won't really turn any heads. Like, no one seems to care anymore.
Good pun, by the way.
Thanks. Like, a lot less people care about that nowadays, so now I know if I'm ever gonna commit any heinous crimes, don't have it be decapitation, because no one will be like, oh, that was pretty cool, right?
Well, then you also might have a better chance of getting away with it because no one's gonna care.
That's a good point.
Please let it be known that this podcast does
not
not condone beheading.
Or I'll say most other crimes for that fact.
Most other crimes as well, but like, I think it's first and foremost we should probably say like
murder, hard stance, no,
no,
unless they were mean to you a few times. That's when it gets to a gray area.
All right, so to place this into our cinematic universes, the film takes in terms of hard dates.
Yeah.
It has an opening credit sequence where it mentions that that it's set in 1963 in, like I said earlier, the fictional city of Kurashima City. So it's set in 1963. This is right in between Billy the Kid versus Dracula and D.B. Cooper versus Bigfoot.
Not like we had many places that this could go.
That's true.
It could either go before all of them, after all of them, or in between.
That's true. All right. So for next time, you have a movie for me.
Yes. Let me just double confirm the name of the movie.
All right.
Okay. So here...
So if you're just tuning into the podcast, this segment is how we introduce what the next movie is going to be. It's basically two truths and a lie. One of us has chosen the next movie for the next episode. The other doesn't know. And they have two fake movie titles with verses in it.
Yep.
And I have to, in this case, I have to be the one that figures out which one is real.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
And I will let you know the IMDb score, as a matter of fact.
Ooh, okay. Well, you probably shouldn't do that as you're reading through the titles. You might want to wait till after.
No, I'm going to let you know the score, and then I'm going to list off the three titles.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
So, with a whopping 2.9 out of 10 on IMDb, we have got B people versus C people. And I want to specify that's BEE people versus SEA.
Okay,
people.
I was hoping.
We've got ninjas versus zombies.
Okay.
And we've got cats versus frogs.
Ooh, this is kind of tough. Because, like, I feel like with ninjas versus zombies, that's a little too obvious of two figures to be going up against each other. In Cats versus Frogs, I want to see that because that feels like a very... Like, how do you make that 90 minutes?
That also feels like a really nice turning on its head of, like, the whole cats and dogs scenario.
Cats versus dogs is now Cats versus Frogs, baby. So I think for that reason I'm gonna go... Even though it's probably wrong, but I really want it to be right. I want to see B people versus C people. So I'm going to go with it.
Unfortunately, it is not B people versus C people. It is ninjas versus zombies.
All right. Well, so tune in next time for...
Before we leave, I'm going to ask you, out of those two, who do you think's going to win? Which, for the record... There is a third option, or a fourth, which is neither/both, because to remind you, Alien vs. Predator's slogan is, no matter who wins, we lose. So, neither of these necessarily needs to lose or win.
Yeah.
There's always more than one option. So, if you had to guess...
I think there's gonna be a random third party that enters this battle.
Okay.
And beats both of them.
Okay, so, in my head... I have figured out an entire 9-movie saga with 6 spin-off movies.
Oh, God.
That are all in this category. I thought about this when I was at work the other day. So, going in, I have an idea of in where I believe they would land on the cinematic universe. I'm going to guess. Keep in mind, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess zombies.
Okay.
Yeah. It may not even be an immediate win, but I'm going to guess that in the end, they'll win.
Sure. So tune in next time where we'll be talking about Ninjas vs. Zombies, which is available on Amazon Prime for streaming, and I believe it's also up on YouTube, right?
I'm not sure about that one.
Okay. Well, you can also find it online just to rent for if you're willing to pay money for it.
For like $2.99, I think?
Probably something like that. That tends to be the general price.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's up on Amazon Prime if you want to watch it, and that's where you can find it.
Woo!
All right, thank you for tuning in again, and we'll catch you next week.
Or next time.
Oh, right, next time.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Welcome to Night Vale.
We'd appreciate it if next time you listen to our podcast, Cinematic UniVersus. This episode was brought to you by Trees, because you would.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Those accounts can be found in the description.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.
I've been Kyle Torres.
And I've been Andrew Carten.
And this was Cinematic UniVersus.
Almost missed it again.